So to adjust our lighting, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we are selecting one of these standard materials down here, because these react to lighting in real time, whereas the matte cap materials will not. My preference has always been for basic material 2 and basic material when I'm rendering out passes simply to paint on top of. Basic material 2 will give me some specular, basic material gives me a nice flat gray, which I can then place any color on top of in Photoshop. To adjust my lighting, I go to the lighting menu here at the top of the screen. We'll tear that off to the side. And we've got these two light bulbs. Typically this one's turned off, and so you'll have just the key. Now I'm just going to place the key light where I prefer, and in this case I'm going to put it at about 11 o'clock. And then I'm going to turn on my secondary light, and your secondary light will default to being in front of the model. I turned my intensity up really high and actually gave it just a tiny bit of color. And then once you've got that light set with the high intensity and the slight bit of color, just click on the little orange dot, and that places it behind the model. So I can now move this off to the side and give a nice rim light. And the purpose of that rim light is to carve the figure out from the background. If you don't have that rim light in place once you start painting, your character is going to go from mid-tone to highlight to shadow. And if something's going mid-tone, highlight to shadow, and then ending, there doesn't really seem to be anything to pull it out from the ground. There's nothing pulling it out from the background. You see it often in some of the atelier drawings, from the 19th century, that place something in a black felt box and you do your drawing of it, and there wouldn't necessarily be a rim light on there because there was nothing bouncing that light back. It's not a bad thing, but it's just, it creates a very shallow space. If we are to turn on this rim light, we can then carve a figure out from the background with this really nice edge light. And I find that extremely important for these character portrait paintings, otherwise they just tend to feel particularly flat. So with your light settings placed, go to File, Save As, and just save your project file. Again, the light settings will save with it. And the next step we're going to do is our BPR render.